Award-winning filmmaker, orator, educator, and comic book creator are just a few of the titles held by Shannon Newby, who joins me on the season finale of RXG Exclusives in 25 seconds.
Wow.
We must open up our minds and take a look inside. That we find we hold all the answers tonight.
You're watching RXG Exclusives.
Oh, they tried to keep us away, yeah.
Dirty Laundry, Air It Out, centered on the happenings of one night in an all-night laundromat.
Yo, my man, you can't drink that in here. Yo, cuz, man, you gotta put that away.
It was no easy feat to accomplish, having shot in the late 90s and taking 5 years to complete and secure a distribution deal. My guest's award-winning 2003 feature-length directorial debut was released nationwide at Wow, What a Difference! Blockbuster Video. He followed it up with the acclaimed anthology TV series Heavy Sedation, which was a bona fide hit in the Philadelphia tri-state area before being picked up for nationwide broadcast. His latest release is a literary endeavor. Shannon Newby, thanks so much for joining us.
Wow, thank you. And thank you for actually researching who I was before we did this, although you know who I am because we know each other forever. But thank you for having me, Rob. I appreciate it.
You know, when I was a kid, I can't really say that I was a comic book lover, but occasionally I'd be in the store, I'd check out a comic book and completely be transported into whatever that world was. And of course, I appreciate films like M. Night's Unbreakable and more recently, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Your new 80-page graphic novel, Munch, Volume 1, centers on a spaceship that accidentally crashes on Earth and discovers that humans are delicious and then continually returns to Earth to gather humans as food.
My name is David Munch, and I'm about to be someone's dinner. The irony of that is not lost on me.
I absolutely love the premise. When did you develop a passion for comic books, and what led you to create Snoopy Comics?
So I fell in love with comic books about the same time I fell in love with movies. I was about 9 years old. My love of movies started with E.T. We'll get into that later, but the love of comics started with a book. Because I had comic books as a kid, and I read a few things here and there, but then I read the Uncanny X-Men 162. And it was one of those things where it just transformed your whole mind. Like, wow, what could be told? And I was just so enamored with the story. And I just kind of started my love for comics. And the next thing you know, within a year or so, I started collecting, and I just went crazy for about 10 years collecting comic books. So I've always had a love for it. I always wanted to make comic books. I mean, again, at the same time, I only had two things I ever wanted to do with my life, which was make movies and make comic books. And so this coming now is actually a very long time process, long time to get to this point, because I thought I would have started it sooner, but unfortunately I've started it now, but that's where it is.
When things are meant to be, they're meant to be.
Yes.
Now, we both mentor young people in the filmmaking field, and we both are products of the public school system, having attended Kappa, the Philadelphia High School for Creative and Performing Arts. You're now teaching in the public school system. How has what you've learned in your career helped inspire young people? And given their diverse backgrounds, what are some of the techniques you use to connect with them to create a mutual respect? Because I can't imagine it's easy with all the different personalities.
Yeah, it's not. Teaching is a whole other animal. And I'll say this, I teach film and video production in the school system. I've always said, I never thought I would find anything I love as much as filmmaking until I found teaching. And I truly do enjoy teaching. So for one, me coming into it, I think I have a different perspective because there are other film teachers across in the school district, but because of my long history, before becoming a teacher, I started teaching at 38 years old, and I had already had clocked 20 years in the film industry as an indie filmmaker, as you said. So When I started with film, I actually started shooting film. My first feature film is in actual 60 millimeter film. So when I come to my students, I realize that I have a depth of knowledge that a lot of people don't necessarily have, or depth of experience that I can bring to them, and showing them about how things used to be and how they are now. And so for me as a teacher, one is having a knowledge of the field, but there's a key philosophy that I learned some time ago that I stick to, which is kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you have to actually, I care for my students like I would care for my own children. It's tough sometimes. Sometimes it's got to be tough love. Sometimes you got to, put them in their place. I've been in a district, so this is the third school I've been in, and it's a much much better environment than when I started. But I started at West Philly High School, which was very rough, and but it was trial by fire, so it wasn't a bad thing. I learned the techniques of sometimes you go through a bad experience or think of it as a bad experience. But one thing I say is that all experiences are good, even when they're unpleasant. You know what I mean? So it was a rough experience being there and in a school with such, say diverse personalities, a lot of disciplinary issues. But it made me so much stronger as a teacher going forward in future years. Because I've seen the worst of it. So when you come across issues, it's like you just kind of dirt off the shoulders. So. But the key thing is that having the knowledge that I have and sharing with the students is one thing, but it's really about building that relationship with the students beyond just beyond film, because I have a lot of students who graduate in high school and they go on to do other things. But the relationships and the things that I built with them as far as concerning like professionalism and soft skills and hopefully that when I always say that I've prepared them well when they leave the building for the last time. That's the way I always look at it.
Well, and I have to give you an extra tip of the hat, because as a man of color teaching, that's something to talk about.
It is, and I'll say this because there's not a lot of African American male teachers in the school district. Like I said, I love teaching. I really do. People always say, I always say, like, people talk about teaching being tough. It can be, but I find more and more, the more seasoned you become at it, the teaching becomes easy and the job becomes the hard part. It's always it's not the teaching, it's the job. It's so I can deal with the kids. It becomes the other stuff beyond the kids that makes the job difficult. You know what I mean? So, and you hold on sometimes a little bit longer than you should with a lot of things, because you know how much I'll say it this way. I think of teaching in the same vein that you would take someone who is a medical doctor or someone whose job, like, the things that I do and the way I present myself to the kids matter. Like, I can have a profound effect on the kid's life, positive or negative. You know what I mean? So I always think about, you can have a job doing something to where it's like, if you don't do a good job, okay, you don't do a good job and it doesn't really hurt people. But if I don't do a good job, I think I can really, negatively affect the students. So I'm always aware of that.
Well, when you were about 9 years old, you told your parents you wanted to make movies. Were
Yes.
they supportive of that dream, or did they want you to follow a more traditional path in life?
I'm very thankful that my parents were always very encouraging. So the story goes, when the movie thing, again, comic books and movies at the same time, I saw the movie E.T., and I remember it so clear. Like, I was enamored with it. I loved E.T., and one day my father was like, it was 82, was sitting down at the dining room table and he was reading a newspaper, and it was an article about Steven Spielberg, and I was standing there talking to him about, and he said, this guy Steven Spielberg, and I remember seeing the pictures, and he made Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I also love. He made movie E.T., and he made Jaws, which I hadn't seen, but I knew what it was. And I just kind of pieced it all together, like, oh, movie directing is a job. Like, I never thought about it being a job. And I said, I want to be a movie director. That's what I want to do. Because I love movies. Like, I just love movies leading before that. I love movies and cartoons. And I was just, always just so enamored with movies. And I was the kind of kid to repeat all the lines. But I never thought of it as being a career. I was just in love with the actual, the art form. So then when I realized it was something that a person could do, I was like, that's what I want to do. And I have never changed career choices since, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's how I came to be.
Yeah, it's fantastic having that kind of support. And through the continued advent of technology, anyone has the ability to create films and other creative content just by picking up their phone or a tablet. And while there's no rhyme or reason to what's popular on the internet or even in the industry, many people lack the proper training and structure it takes for their work to be at a certain level. What's your advice to folks who might be interested in storytelling through the art of motion picture?
Because some people just make films because they want to make money, but I mean, I started doing it for the love of the art. I just loved making films. I love telling stories. I love, making visual medium. And so when I first started, again, cause I started shooting video, my father got a video camera when I was like 13 years old. It was his camera, but I soon co-opted and started making videos of my brothers and sisters. Of course, the movies are terrible, but they're horrible. But again, I love doing it because we were just playing around and having fun and making movies. And I started editing using two VCRs and editing deck to deck, that kind of thing. So I loved it. So I tell people all the time, if you want to make movies, just start making movies, but don't stay there. Don't just stay with the point of I'm just making movies and they're terrible, one after another. Like, there's a thing called deliberate practice. So you do things and deliberately to get better at what you do. I mean, that's what makes you better. It's not just if I play the guitar and I keep playing the same song over and over again without ever taking note of what I'm doing, then you'll stay in that same place. So you do your work, you look at it, you reflect upon it constructively, say, I could have done this better. How do I do this? You seek out answers and you go back and you do it again. So I tell my students that all the time, you work constructively to be better at what you do. So, learn, because learning the basics of filmmaking really isn't as hard as people make it out to be. Learn composition, learn shot selections, learn exposure, learn sound and decibels. Most components of filmmaking can be broken down into like basic three or four pieces. Like I always say, like when I teach composition, I mean, it's three basic compositions: wide shot, medium shot, close up. And of course, you got extreme wide shot, you got an over the shoulder, you got a profile. But what kind of profile? Is it medium profile or a close up profile? Is it extreme wide or wide? So, but take the time to learn the basics of the art form. And the one thing I always say, because I always look at these people say the rules of filmmaking, I always say that I don't like calling them rules, but I call them guidelines. Because the only rule I would say is this: if it works, do it. If it doesn't work, don't do it. You say, well, how do I know if it works? If it's supposed to be funny, I should be laughing. If it's supposed to be serious, I should feel the drama. If it's supposed to be scary, I should be scared. And if I'm not feeling these things, then it's not working. So the rule is to do what works, and learn all the rules or the guidelines. And then once you learn them, you can get rid of them, because every rule that's been created for film has been broken successfully and worked for whatever person was going to do with it. So, you have to take it like anything. You got to take it seriously. And I think for a lot of people, they just think like, oh, I'm just going to get up and make something and do it, and it's fun. And that's a great attitude to have. Get up and do it and make it and do it's fun. But if you want to grow, in the art form, you have to put the time in. And I've been doing this now for a long time, Robert. I'm not gonna say the years, but it's been a lot of years, and I'm still not great in all aspects. I was just talking and teaching my students lighting, and talking about Roger Deakins. Roger Deakins. He did all the Coen Brothers movies, and he's a fantastic cinematographer. And it's like paint with light, and you can spend literally 10 years just learning how to be a great gaffer and lighting a scene, and still not be as good as other people. So it's that's the key. Deliberate practice.
Yeah, the learning process never stops.
Yes, I'm sorry if I'm getting long-winded, but yes.
No. This is what the show's about.
Yeah, pick it up and do and have fun, and enjoy what you do. Don't create film just because people say, well, this is what's selling now, I'm going to make this. Do it because it's what's in your heart to what you want to do, and create something that's fun, and just keep trying to get better at it. Wherever you start, wherever you are, but always think like, okay, how can I be better? How can I make this better? And if you follow that and you're doing it for, again, when I say the right reasons, you're doing it because you actually enjoy doing it, you can't lose.
Absolutely. And you mentioned editing by VCRs. For the younger people out there, if you don't know what a VCR is, you got to look it up.
Yeah, deck-to-deck editing is what these call it, yes.
Well, then we both know how challenging filmmaking is, with financing being right up there at the very top. I always say that I'm happiest when I'm in my creative space, when the resources just aren't there to properly execute your art. How do you stay creative and productive?
It's so funny you say that, because I mean, now as a filmmaker, it's so easy to make movies. It is just so easy, and I'll say that because I remember again when I started. I got into the field in 1991 when I and work at a community college for Philadelphia. I got into the field, and it was really hard to like find resources and things like that. Now I mean, if you want to make a movie, there's no reason you can't make a movie if you truly want to do that. But I have had an issue with not being able to do film because my life has become so overwhelmingly complicated or just time constrained. And just like you saying, like I have to be creative, and I've gone through these long period of time where I wasn't being creative, and I was depressed, not realizing why I was being depressed, but I was just living my life just going from task to task to task, and not spending time to just stop and just sit in that creative space. Because it's not like just saying like, okay, now time to be creative. You have to let your brain breathe. You have to like get out. You have to just let go of things, just kind of sit and let the ideas flow and things like that. So I realized that to keep myself from being crazy and to being depressed, I have to be creative. So in saying that, part of why I started the comic book a journey was because I was not being able to shoot, and I was like, well, let me write I'm gonna start pushing the comic book thing, because like something I always wanted to do, and I was like, what do you want to spend your time with? I said I'm going to do that. I've made music in GarageBand when again not to be released to the public, but I create music in GarageBand. I pretend to learn how to play the guitar, which I'm terrible at.
Listen, I got a guitar about three or 4 years ago for Christmas, and I still haven't learned it.
Yeah, I have 3 guitars, a bass, a Congo drum, a harmonica. As grown up as kids, we had all these great instruments, and none of us, my brother and sister and I, and we never learned how to play anything. So it's a sad shame. We had a organ, and right now I'm doing the same thing for my kids. Like I got them a keyboard, and I got them guitars, and they're not picking it up yet, but hopefully they'll find a way to it at some point. But yeah, I'm always doing something creative. I mean, like I have to, just to stay balanced, to stay sane, to stay on on point. And if I'm not doing that, it really does affect me throughout throughout the other parts of my life, because as a creative person, I have to do something creative and some capacity. I'm a writer, needless to say. So I've been writing a novel for a long time. It started off as one short story, then became a series of short stories, and so I'm still working on that. And at some point, I need to finish it because I do want to put it out. You know what I mean? So, but just like right, I just have to find something creative, either in my writing or like say trying to make music on GarageBand or trying to learn how to play the guitar, doing something. I have to do something to make myself make my brain okay, so to speak.
Well, the world is a busy place with lots of noise and lots of discourse. Often the arts is used to provoke conversation and change, and sometimes it's used solely as a form of escapism. What would you say is your personal brand of storytelling, and what influences your creativity?
So I enjoy my creative narrative storytelling. So with my media company, Out the House Media, my focus is always narrative storytelling. Like I'm not interested in reality TV or interested in just a lot of things that other people do. And my thing for me, because again, what drives me is telling stories. I'm a creative person. I like creating stories, writing stories. So my brand is always about I always say good stories well told. I want a great story, and I want to tell it well, in whatever form I'm doing it in. If it's comic books or graphic novels or TV or features, whatever I'm doing. If I'm creating it, I want it to be something where I'm telling a story, telling a story. So on my YouTube channel, I also do vlogging. In my vlog, I have a thing on my channel called My Journey So Far, and basically what it is it's like me telling stories of all the different things that I've gone through as a creative person throughout my career. So it's like so that's my brand. My style, my brand is to find an interesting story and tell it well. And that's really what I focus on. I like weird stories if you couldn't tell. I like something it's like something that's constantly again not sharp turn, just unfolding, and then it goes left. But not like everything is a stream, then it goes left. It unfolds and it's like, whoa, wait a minute now. It's something that's why like the TV show is called Heavy Sedation. People think it was a drug reference, but it wasn't. It was like you ever watch a movie or something that's so intriguing, like you're just so into it, like you're so focused, and it's like, what are you watching? You're just zoned in because you're pull like, what the heck is going on? Like the first time I saw The Matrix, I was just like so there. I couldn't turn away from it. So I like stories to tell those kind of stories that people are just zoned in and people can't turn away from it. Just almost mesmerized by the story. They can't turn away from it.
Well, you mentioned Heavy Sedation. Any chance of rebooting that, bringing it back? I remember it. It was a really compelling, interesting show.
Well, it was always in my mind to do that. So the show ran from 2006 to 2010. So by '07, we started in November of 2006, and then by November '07, we were in the Philadelphia market. We started on a second tier public television station called WYBE, which is no longer around. And we did so well locally, like we were the #4 show on the station in Philadelphia. The only thing we weren't beating was like the Korean dramas, which is like a whole like animal. But we were beating everything else outside of the Korean dramas, which were not produced here. Of course, they were coming from Korea, so we were the #1 local show on the station anyway. So we did so well, and I got the Nielsen ratings about how well we're doing. So then next thing you know, we got picked up by NETA, which is the National Education Television Association, and they picked us up to us to go nationwide. And they had said that we hope we can get at least 10 stations to go. But I really put my pedal to the metal, and I got a lot of stations. I got 40. It was 40 aired on 48 TV stations across the country and in Canada as well. So yeah, it was a great, wonderfully received show. Show ended because we had 2 seasons. We were in the second episode of season 3 when this was in '09, and the recession came. My underwriters all pulled out. I couldn't support the show anymore, and I just basically we just like okay, because we shot like 75% of the second episodes of season 3, and then we never got to finish it. So I still want to put that together. I think I want to get like an animator to like animate the scenes that I didn't shoot.
And this was a show that you financed yourself.
Yeah. So so the goal was I was hoping that I was going to get myself to a point the show would start taking care of itself. So I had underwriters, but it wasn't enough to fund the. I had my business I was doing, but again, doing mostly like corporate video production work stuff, and I was financing the show through that entity. And then when things started drying up, I couldn't fund it. And the most frustrating thing was everyone still wanted the show, but nobody wanted to pay for it because they got the show for free, and it was basically then you get the product for free, and then I have to fund it myself. And then if I get the underwriters to fund it, and if again you get eyes on you and you become very well known, then you can get better, bigger underwriters, so forth and so on. This is all before YouTube became YouTube. YouTube started in '05. This is like '07, '08, '09. But with that being said, the show did do very well, and like I said, it never ended properly. I'm thinking, I still have 100 more stories to tell. I don't know if those stories are going to get told at some capacity. I don't know if I'm going to bring back Heavy Sedation anymore, or I'll start a whole new show that's very similar and just call it a different name. But it'll still be those stories. You know what I mean? So there's a lot more to tell. If it was going to be on the Heavy Sedation banner or not, I don't know. I'll say it that way. So, be it the 2 disc complete series DVD is available for those who want to see it. And there are some episodes on the YouTube channel.
Well, Shannon, what's on deck for you in the new year, and how can people support what you're up to?
Well, on deck for me now is I'm doing Here Comes the Shameless Plug. Prepare. So here's Munch, the graphic novel. Ooh. So Snooby Comics, which is Snooby SNOOBY, not which is Shannon Newby Comics. So I'm going forward with the creation of my graphic novel. So this one is out. I'm actually hoping to start production for volume 2. I was doing floppies at first, and again, a floppy is the standardized floppy comic I have one over here. But I'm really focused on doing graphic novel work now. I also have like my kids comic here, Super Nana and Cat Bat, which is my kids comic. And so again, I have these, but I'm going to, instead of doing individual floppies, I'm thinking about just kind of doing things more in volumes like this, selling books as opposed to selling comics. Because I think I just have more opportunity to sell them as books than as comic books, because a comic book goes into a comic book store, but graphic novels and books can go typically anywhere. You know what I mean? So, but that's my one focus is this. The second thing that I'm doing going into New Year is increasing my vlogging on YouTube. I'm going to be doing that, and I'm also doing some blogging going into next year as well. Writing a lot of articles, and have some people have been asking for me to do some writing for them, so I'm doing that as well. But I'm really focused on I'm pulling away from, because I got really, I say yes too much, and I was saying I was doing a lot of projects that I wasn't really happy with. There's a couple things that I'm working on that I do want to keep doing, because I'm really interested in seeing it come to fruition. But my mindset this going forward into the new year is vlogging and blogging. That's the main part, vlogging and blogging, and the next issue of both of these books. So I have two titles now, which is the Munch and Super Nana Cap app. So that's my goal, is to get to the next issues of those. And there is a movie on the horizon. So I was just I have a lot more movies in me to do, and I'll say this: I was just talking to our good friend Brian Anthony Wilson, and I said, I have stuff for you, because so Brian, for those who know Brian, that's my big brother. I've written so many scripts for Brian over the years; it's crazy. So we got to start to do one of these at some point. We have tons of scripts that I wrote for him, and hopefully, maybe not in 2023, but 2024, we'll be making a movie together. So I'm gonna put it out there now, put it on my vision board, make sure we can get that to happen.
Well, Brian is awesome, friend to me, friend to the show. We've co-starred in a couple things together. And this has been an absolute pleasure, Shannon. We've never had a chance to collaborate, but you've always been very supportive and encouraging through the years of my artistic growth. I think the last time we saw each other was actually, we bumped into each other at a supermarket several years ago.
Yes, that's me now, just supermarket. I don't get recognized as much anymore, which is not, so yes, that's a good thing.
But here's wishing you the very best as this holiday season comes to a close. And thank you all for watching the season finale of RXG Exclusives. Happy New Year. Shannon, thanks so much, man. I appreciate
Robert,
it.
you did a fantastic job. Thank you. I can't wait for you to get your own couch and desk.
Make sure to like, comment, and hit subscribe on our YouTube channel so you never miss out. RXG Exclusives, hosted by Robert X. Golphin, now playing.